Welcome to the Power Couples Rock podcast, where our mission is to build a collective community of marriages, where we encourage, inspire, and support one another in order to have masterful marriages. We're Carlos, Catherine, Chris, and Sonia. Please check us out, powercouplesrock.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We believe that one of the most amazing legacies we can leave in life is a great marriage. So we hope you'll listen, learn, and love the conversation. Let's power up. Hey, hello, and welcome to the Power Couples Rock podcast once again. Well, once again, for those of you who have listened before, but those of you who are listening for the first time, again, thank you so much for pressing play. We hope you love what you're about to hear. And for those of you who have not yet subscribed to the Power Couples Rock podcast, please hit that subscribe button. Give us some feedback. Give us a rating. Give us a review. If you're going to give us a negative review, then don't review us at all. Just kidding.
We only want 5s.
Kinda.
You can
Just
inbox
kidding.
me if you have some other issues.
I'm here with my most favorite people in the universe once again. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my most beautiful wife, Mrs. Sonia Stone.
Hi, Power Couples.
Yes.
Glad you're here.
Yes.
I'm also here with my two most favorite people in the universe, Mr. and Mrs. Carlos and Catherine Green. What is up, you guys?
What's up, Power Couples?
Look at you guys
In
are
unison.
unified.
I know, right?
Gosh, after all
man.
these years, we got it.
We got it right.
I got it right.
You guys are on fire.
We are.
Oh, yes.
That's what we call a segue.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
get
a
the
good one.
fire burning.
Mhm.
We're going to talk today about 4 ways to keep the fire hot
Mm.
in your marriage. And I'm ready to jump into this thing.
Yes.
Please do.
But I'm going to have to let Carlos get this thing ignited with a word or a few words or many words
I know.
from God's word today. So, Carlos, if you would, please set it off.
I'm
I would.
already hot.
You're already
Let's
hot,
go.
babe. That's good. So tonight, I'm loving these 4 ways to keep the fire hot in our marriage. And I know we were prepping for this, having some amazing discussion
Yep.
just regarding this particular topic. And before I get into the scripture, I remember we had this idea about just kind of sitting around a campfire
Mm.
and what that fire actually does to people that engage in that campfire and what that looks like. And we had talked about that once you build that campfire, it just invokes a lot of laughter. You relax
Yeah.
around the campfire. There's a lot of communication
Yeah.
that happens.
Warmth.
There's a lot of warmth.
Warm.
Yep.
Yes.
You start getting connected with people.
S'mores.
S'mores.
I love s'mores.
Really
man.
good.
Hot dogs.
Chocolate,
Yes.
graham
So
cracker,
you start, and so the
marshmallow.
memories.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. But the memories, they start to come back, right? With the s'mores, with the connection, with just all the different
the
kinds
wire
of
hanger
conversations.
used when we didn't.
Yes.
Yes, I remember those days.
To roast the marshmallows, you had to use the wire hanger.
Yes.
Singing
Yes.
songs, right?
Oh,
Music.
we're telling our age, aren't we?
I know.
Mhm.
But I think that fire just brought a level of warmth
Yep.
to the conversations, to the engagement, to the people that were there. And I'm just looking at this podcast that we're hosting tonight to our power couples is that's the kind of context and environment that we want their relationships to be in.
Mhm.
One that brings a lot of warmth, a lot of fire, a lot of connection, a lot of engagement to their relationship. And so I'm hoping that we're setting the appropriate context for them
Yes.
there. So I do want to launch into the scripture that we want to lay this on, and I come from 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter, verses 3 through 5. And this is actually Paul talking to the Corinthians there. And he says here, the husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her own husband. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. In the same way, the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but also to his wife. Do not deprive each other except by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. And I think that just provides that level of context about who we are as one flesh, and that we should not be depriving each other of that level of intimacy that we should be having with one another. And then I love that he gives us instruction on what we do if we do come apart and we're not being intimate with one another. Then what should our posture be at that point? And that's to give ourselves over to prayer and connecting with God. And then after we've done that, then we come back together as one couple from an intimacy standpoint. So that's where I wanted us to start off tonight. So let's get into the 4 ways
Okay.
that we can keep the fire hot.
Let's do it. I
Yes.
want to go first.
Okay.
'Cause,
Take
I mean,
it.
the last podcast, if you didn't listen to the last podcast, you can listen to that after. But we did the 5 ways to breathe life into your marriage, and we had a lot of fun with that, and some great feedback from those that have listened. And thank you for that to everyone who did that. And I didn't get to go first last time. So now I'm like, yeah, I'm
Chris,
stoked.
you can go first.
All right. So the first thing that I would say in order to keep the fire hot is fun.
Yeah.
It's
Tell me
fun.
about that.
And I remember going to a TED Talk, and my buddy here, Carlos, was hosting that TED Talk, and there was a gentleman who got up and spoke about finding the funny.
Yes.
And there was all of these things that happen around you, and you know how when serious things happen to you, even things like today we locked the keys with in our car with the car running, and we're able to laugh at it now, right?
Yes.
And we're able to find the funny. But I'm going to tell you, when that was happening and our car was running and it was 30 minutes away and we were scrambling around our house in order to find the keys, I was not finding the funny in that at all. And I think in a lot of ways we need to, as couples, start to find some ways of lightening up on things and not make them such a serious big deal when they're happening. Because if we're looking back at it later and laughing at it, maybe they're not such a big deal when they happen. And getting so annoyed and getting so just on each other's nerves all the time. So that's one thing I would say. I would say the other thing in terms of fun is, I know Sonia and I, we've been together for a long time. We were, and those of you who have listened to many of the podcasts know our story. And I think in the first podcast we went back and talked about how we met each other and how long we've known each other, and we've dated for. Yes, Carlos is rubbing my leg underneath the table. That's part of the story, ladies and gentlemen. So we've been together. We dated for over 9 years, and then we've been married now for well over 20 years, 21 years. And so we've been together for 30 years. Wow. And I remember distinctly, Sonia, at one point when we were intimate and we're communicating with each other, she said to me in one of those moments how much she loved that I made her laugh. And that was something that was very attractive to her, that I made her laugh, and that she loved just that I made her laugh. And I think there was times where she longed for that, and she would say to me, I wish you made me laugh like you used to make me laugh. And that hurt, hearing that, right? But I try my hardest to try to find the funny and try to find things to have making her laugh right now. I win.
That's awesome.
But I think it's important for us to try to keep things light when they need to be lighter than they should be, I guess, or not than when they should be. But let's try to make things light and humorous and fun for each other, and I think that can kind of maybe set the table for keeping things hot.
Yeah, Carlos and I love to have fun, and we love to make each other laugh. I'm actually pretty funny myself.
No.
Yes, I'm so serious. I'm trying to figure out where I got that from over the years. Anyway, but we really love to have a great time, and so we talk to one another to find out what do we like to do for fun. And so and it could be, well, of course, everyone knows we like to play tennis to our audience because we've talked about that. And I haven't always played tennis, but I had a good time seeing him play it. And so I wanted to be able to engage with what he was doing. So I learned how to do it, and we have fun, and we talk about what ways we can have fun. We go around visiting different restaurants, and that's always fun for us. And we laughed. Just this past weekend, we went around and we went to shopping. Carlos doesn't like shopping. That's not fun for him. It's quite fun for me, but
spending time with you.
But spending time was fun, and we had some laughable moments during that time. So I mean, I could go on and on about all the fun that we have, and it's just added so much life to our relationship.
I think for me, I go back to the question that we would ask each other as well as ask other couples. When have you and your spouse just had belly laugh together? Where you're just bent over because it's so funny, the conversation that you're having, or just a situation that's come up and you just can't stop laughing because it's so much fun. And it breeds that level of breathes connection into your relationship there, because you're just connecting with your spouse on a whole different level by just laughing together.
It's so hard when you've got so much going on, and you're balancing kids and the budget and work and you're not feeling right, and you haven't slept, and there's just all this stuff going on. It's like it's really tough, right? To have fun together.
Yes.
And you got to be able to find those common things to where it's like, wow, we are actually laughing and having a good time,
right,
as best friends.
Yes. So that's one way.
You took that thought right out of my head. Like,
I'm
we're so
sorry.
connected
I'm
that
so
he
sorry.
took that. That's what I was going to say. I think I really do think it's important, though, to stay focused on that, because it is very easy to get distracted by the world and the things in the world and lose sight of the fact that you can have fun together.
I'm so happy.
Or that you
we're on the
had fun
same-
together at one point in your life, because things may not seem fun all the time, and they're not fun all the time. And but try to remember back to those times that you did have fun.
I'm so happy we're on the same wavelength. Can you believe that?
No, I can't.
This is so much fun.
Yeah, this is kind of, okay.
So, Carlos, we talked about the first way to keep the fire hot. And I know everyone right now, they want to hear this one. This one's a good one.
You're setting it up, Chris.
Man. Oh man, I'm
The
throwing you an underhanded softball.
Okay.
Here it comes. Carlos, bring us the next way to keep the fire hot.
The next way to keep the fire hot is through intimacy. And I'm sure people are thinking, first thing is sex. Yes.
Chicka, chicka, chicka.
Bow, bow. Exactly. Which that is part of it.
Yeah.
That is part of it, the physical aspect of just being intimate with one another. But I do believe that there's a different level of intimacy that you can go to that would enhance that physical intimacy. So you look at the emotional and mental intimacy that you can actually connect with your spouse on. And I think for me, the most important one is the spiritual intimacy. Is if you can come together and you're worshiping together and you're studying together and you're praying together. I'm not saying you got to pray every night together, but there's this rhythm that you've put yourself in to get to that level of connection to where your souls are connecting with one another, it's going to truly enhance the physical connection, because now I'm just not into you just from a physical perspective, but I really know who you are.
Yep.
I've really gone into the depth of your soul to really understand how to please you, what makes you tick. What have I been doing all day long to really make sure that I'm mentoring to you, or not mentoring, but that I'm being intentional about ministering to you.
I think that's so important because it became spiritually, emotionally, being able to look inside me, find out the things that help me to grow, or the things that make who I am, and really learning all about me really became real clear about how important that was, along with the physical part. Was many years ago, my cousin husband had just gotten married, and just having the time of their life. And it was shortly after that, her husband had a motorcycle accident, and he ended up being paralyzed from the I want to say waist down. And so they went through just rehabilitation, all of that. And I mean, he still to this day is in a wheelchair, and still, paralyzed. And so that is often brought back to my mind that they had to have something much more than the physical part.
Yes.
Had to be emotionally, had to be mentally, it had to be something spiritual that they had to connect deeper, on a deeper level. Because when that is gone, or when you don't have that physical capabilities, then what do you do? And so that's, I often, God brings that back to my mind so that I can be grateful for even having the opportunity to be able even to be physical, but to even go a little bit more deeper into learning more about how much I can serve Carlos in a more intimate way.
It's interesting when you guys are both talking about this. Most of the time when a married couple, when it comes to intimacy and things are just maybe going a little cool in the bedroom, right? Things are going a little cold. They think about, quote unquote, spicing it up, right? Maybe you head off exit 112, at the adult store, right? And you go and you go pick up some edible underwear or some, some other things. Can we say that on a podcast? Because we just did.
We did.
But I think this is not talking about that, right? This is talking about a spiritual connection. This is not talking about enhancing something that is more of the flesh per se. This is about center yourself spiritually and get yourself there spiritually, because that's going to be something that's long lasting and not necessarily flesh.
And so here's what brought to mind here is that when you talked about that particular example, it's like you're bringing something from the outside into your relationship, when really we should be looking at on the inside what God has already equipped us with. And he's already equipped us with the right emotion, the right mentality, the right spiritual tools that we need, and the right physical opportunities that we have to enhance that relationship
100%.
From an intimacy standpoint.
And the outside often, it ages. It doesn't stay that young.
Temporary.
Tone, maybe whatever attracted you to your spouse at the beginning, those things those things go away. But the inside of who someone is and the core of that person typically will remain the same. So that's the stuff that I think we need to focus on to bring out, to learn to love more than what we see.
And I'm glad you said that, because I also think the outside things also distort
absolutely
and deceive us.
Absolutely.
Because then there's unrealistic expectations
absolutely
that we bring into our intimate relationships that are not designed to be there. And so I love that if we can focus in from a spiritual, emotional, and mental standpoint, what that looks like, it's going to enhance our physical intimacy of what that is. And I'll stop right there.
I heard someone
Yeah.
say intimacy is like into me you see.
Oh,
I like that.
I like
So
that.
it makes it internal. So
Mhm.
just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay,
you threw it.
you just like now I don't know where I'm going now. I just like you took it off the rails now with me mentally. This podcast is going in a different direction now at this point. Into me, you now see, or into me, you see. I like that.
Mhm.
I love
Very
that.
cool.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Okay,
Mhm.
so we've got fun, we've got intimacy, and not intimacy like you think necessarily, is more like a different level kind of intimacy.
Mm.
And now we have another one. Who's up?
That would be me.
Sonya.
Go
All right.
The most
So-
beautiful woman in the world.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So for me, one of the biggest things in a relationship that can create emotional intimacy has to be respect. And I think that this is especially important and true for men. So what does respect look like? It comes in many shapes and forms, but I think everyone desires not only to be listened to, but also to feel like what they've said has really been heard and considered important. So, listening, I think, is one of the main ways that you can show respect to your spouse and also increase that level of emotional intimacy. But I think that there's something that's even more important than that, and maybe even bigger than that. And that is being appreciative and considerate of who that person is.
And I think that that's a celebration of who they are, because that's what attracted them to you from the beginning, is that what they brought to the table. And oftentimes we forget that was an attractive point of that person.
Well, the things that attracted you then can become quite the opposite, the things that you become most frustrated with. But truly, that is what brought you together in the beginning.
It is.
So you have to respect the differences between each other as well. So it's
Yes.
about, your differences. You have to respect your time. You have to respect, what each person desires in the relationship, whether that be, it may not look the same as what you want it to look. They may have different interests than you have. They may have different things that they want to pursue and be passionate about. But to come alongside them and give them space, I think, is also can be very can make things very intimate, in that you love them enough to respect who they are and what they bring and what they enjoy and what they love. And as Catherine, you said, you kind of joined in what Carlos was all about. The tennis, you became a part of that so that you could spend more time with him. So I think respect is a big deal when it comes to a relationship and the intimacy that you can create that is more mental than physical. And
Yeah.
anyway,
This is a tough one because
it is hard.
It's difficult for both the man and the woman to do this because by nature we're driven for ourselves, right? And we talked about this on past podcasts about the languages for him and her and what respect was. And I think a lot of this is respecting that your spouse has certain things that they do for themselves and they need to do those things for themselves, but finding the commonalities and doing those things with your spouse together as well, and being able to respect both of those. And that means if your spouse likes to do something by themselves, like one example would be if your spouse likes to go running like I do, right? So that's something that Sonya is respectful of, that I'm just going to up in the middle of the day go and run. And but at the same time, I need to be respectful that if I'm going to go run and I'm training for a race and I'm going out for a long run and it's going to be an hour and a half or 2 hours because, set up and, everything that I have to do for that might mean that she's going to be doing a lot of extra stuff at the house because I'm not going to be there for, doing stuff for our kids or doing other things that she has expectations for. That's one example. And I'm sure there are numerous other examples about sort of, a vice versa sort of respect thing. Respect that your spouse has things that they want to do for themselves, whether it's playing tennis, whether it's shopping, getting a massage, whatever. But at the same time, you need to respect that your husband or your wife is also, doing stuff to keep the balance in your marriage and within your family.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at just to add to what you were talking about. I was thinking about how we teach our children how to respect adults, and I teach my boys, how to respect their father. That was one of the biggest things I put in their spirit when their dad would enter the room and just, show respect and honor. And I have to apply that as well, respecting Carlos in front of other people and respecting his thoughts and ideas and just honoring that.
Yeah.
And that helps just to build him up in front. And when I build him up, it does me so good when I can see others respecting him as well. That's a little turn on. That can light the fire right there.
Yeah. Well, and it's a big deal for women to respect their dreams.
Yeah.
It is. It's 100%, And listen, I've come up with a lot of cockamamie ideas, and some ideas. And I'll come in there and I'll be like, Sonia, what do you think about this idea? I'm thinking about this, that, or the other. And she will look at me sideways and crush my dreams. And that's like, you might as well toss water on the fire on that, right?
Well, we have to be realistic in our marriages too. There's a bit of reality that goes along with that respect.
But it's interesting that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Carlos usually would have those same things, Chris. And then I would just say, just write them down, because it may not be now. Instead of me killing his dream.
Now you know.
And
when
so,
she says write it down,
write
she
it
hates
down.
your idea.
The kill the dream is not keeping the fire burning. I got to keep the fire burning. So I'm like, write it down and maybe later on we can discuss. And, a lot of times he's like, he loves to hear my ideas about it. Yep. But he has 1,000 of them, just running. But the smartest people, they have lots of ideas going.
Listen, she just respected me.
Hey, listen, if you ever need me to tell him his idea is bad, just tell him. I can say it. And I'll intercede.
I'm trying to keep the fire burning, Chris.
But you guys had really said a word there when we were talking about husbands do look for that level of respect, and it's a biblical principle, right? In Ephesians 5:31, it says that the husband should love his wife and see that the wife respects her husband, and that's part of the DNA of a husband, of a man, is to be respected.
And husbands, don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean what you think it means.
It's not a doormat.
That is, yes, that is
anything. But it does write a wonderful story when my wife respects me.
I do.
I know you do, babe.
Hey, listen, let's keep the fire down to the end of the podcast.
I know. She does.
We want to make it to the end of the podcast before we have to hit pause, and you guys need to go.
Respect.
Okay.
Thank you, Sonia.
All right, so we have fun, we have intimacy, we have respect. We got one. Wait a minute, this is F-I-R. What are we spelling here? Wow. Can we? All right, so who's last? We had 1, 2.
I'm going to do E for engage.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I could probably go on and on forever, but when I think of engage, I'm looking at it from a communications standpoint, and I am communicating with Carlos in a way that I support his dreams, that we're having conversation and dialogue on a consistent basis. I like to use this that we identified that there's a time for a power of pause. Power of pause mean I'm paying attention to what you're saying. I hear you. I see you. And then I'm doing just the same. I'm not trying to overtalk, but the power of pause
I like
often allows us to just take a moment to digest and be in the moment and be present.
So when you use power of pause, is that just something, is that kind of like a mantra for you? Like when you're listening to him, you're just like,
I'm just in tune.
I'm going to pause right now. And so you're just allowing him to speak. And then, okay, I like that.
You turn the phone over. You just, you're not thinking. So that's being engaged in what that individual is saying. It's like, I want to be present. I want to hear what you're saying. And so that allows people to know that we're in this space together and I hear you. So that's most important. That's what I mean about being engaged with conversation. We don't pause enough, but there's power in the pause. And even in the checklist of things that you're going through, and you're just saying, I got to do this, because I've heard of often we say that on about, we got to do this. I'm so involved with the kids. And you've got to say, I'm going to pause. I'm going to take a power pause right now.
Yeah,
and
you don't want to feel like you're always competing for your spouse's attention.
Yes.
Right? Like, listen, there's not a more important person on this earth than that person. Like whatever you're doing, if they want your attention, give it to them. Right?
Yes, yes.
And I'm not good at it. I'm
Sometimes
not good at it again. I'm not saying I need more POP.
It's a pop. Let's pop. But what could be very, and Carlos and I had done this. We got to get back to it, but we would pause and kiss for 6 seconds.
What?
Yes.
What is this, like a CrossFit marriage thing? 25 burpees, kiss for 6 seconds.
And it does. You should try it. And it does. Dr. had talked about this in one of his sessions about Fix My Marriage. We were looking at doing one of the sessions of his online, because we're always lifelong learners and trying to enrich our relationship. And that was
can
one
keep
of
the
the
fire hot.
That can keep. Absolutely. Being engaged in other tools that could help elevate your marriage, that could help pour into your relationship.
Yes.
And that was one of the tools that we had used. And he talked about just the 6-second kiss. And we were like, we're going to try that. And it was really cool because, most of the time you get in that habit of pecking, you just go peck. You just peck. And then when he said that, it does something just a little bit different. So that's the power of pause. And in that pause, start with the 6-second kiss, and you're definitely going to be engaged right then and there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, because you can't just hold and just like stick there for 6 seconds. It's like, what is this, like a fish? I might as well kiss a fish. Right? Like you gotta do something more than So 6 seconds feels like it'd be at least enough to know what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to encourage our listeners to do that, to be intentional.
Very intentional.
Carlos, you were going to say something.
I would say I noticed that when we go out to eat now, we normally either our phones are not with us or we've turned the phones over from an intentionality standpoint, because we don't want that to take away from our time together in what we're doing. So we've tried to find other spaces to where our phones are not part of that space or our environment, just so that we can be intentional about one another. So when we went out to eat yesterday, we did not have our phones and probably had the best connection time because there was no distractions that were there, and we could laugh, we could have fun.
Yep.
And then we were connecting on a mental, emotional level.
And you know what? You probably didn't miss a thing.
We didn't miss anything.
No, you missed a couple of photos on Instagram, maybe.
Exactly.
I miss my niece calling Coco. Yeah,
Coco.
People had met her on Facebook Live and all the social medias. Our little niece Coco, who calls us consistently. She likes to be engaged with us.
Coco's awesome.
But we also did that. I also gave you respect too. I respected the investment that you were making by spending time with me.
Because the truth be told, you're going to, just a step away means a lot, because you're going to get back to that at some point. That some things can just wait, and just taking that time. We didn't miss a beat. We really didn't. We were still could get some other things done. And there you don't have that, the tension of, okay, you got to check your emails. No. And it really, I mean, I just enjoyed that day all day. I enjoyed my quality time with my boo.
Good.
That's good, long-lasting foundation there for
That's
sure.
some fire.
Not some quick flash of whatever that you get from your phone. So
That's right.
That's awesome. All right, so these are 4 ways to keep the fire hot in your marriage. Let's recap them for the people, shall we?
Yes.
Fun,
intimacy,
respect, and engagement. So that is what we have for you folks. We'd love to hear from you. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We just got done telling people to put their phones down, but now we're telling people to pick their phones up.
Yes.
Follow
Well, we want to
us on
hear what they
social.
have to say.
Yes.
They may have some other ideas about
how to do the
how
how
to keep the fire as they're sitting around the campfire.
100%.
And remembering they have those memories of connection and the warmth that they're developing with each other.
Yeah, they get the warmth and get that all. And just as long as they pick back up and go to powercouplesrock.com, and that's okay. That's the first thing you should do. Once you put your phones down and you pick them back up, go to Power Couples Rock.
And then everyone send me your s'mores recipes. All right, everyone. Let's
Power up!
Thanks for listening to the Power Couples Rock podcast. We hope that you've been encouraged, inspired, and supported. Please listen and subscribe to our other PowerPods, as we are confident that they will strengthen your marriage. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. It's there where we can extend these discussions together, take these conversations and your marriage to the next level. Enjoy your day and power up.